Hey everybody, welcome back and Happy New Year. It's 3 weeks past the New Year. I'll ditch the champagne, let's do the video anyway. This is just sparkling water, but it still burns. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This wouldn't be an official YouTube channel if we didn't do some corny little things that I'm going to change in the new year. But going into 2022, I really wanted to, I guess, just share my new philosophy on how I plan on taking care of my plants. And maybe some of the resolutions that I have this year will be things that'll help you in your plant journey as well. Now, before we get started, pause this video real quick and let me know down below what you guys are doing and hoping to change in the new year, whether it be plant related or health related, or whatever else people try and do in the new year. With that said, let's roll the intro and get on into it. Okay, so jumping into number one. I'm not sure if anybody else out there who identifies as, I guess you would say, a plant person is like this as well, but for the longest time, I got hung up on this idea that I can't have fake plants in my house because, you know, maybe perhaps my neighbors are going to come over and they're going to just know that I'm a complete fraud because I have one fake plant in my house. God forbid. So I had this weird just habit of putting plants in places that I wanted something green, I wanted something to kind of liven up the space. But there really was just no business of having a plant there due to either the lack of light or the conditions there in general. The biggest area that I think I've been an offender of this is in my hallway entry. I had a snake plant there for the longest time and it wasn't doing its thing. It's a really dark area, and even though snake plants really can thrive in pretty low light situations, it just was not going to happen. I mean, there was like no light, and in the back of my mind I'm always like, oh, I'll remember to turn on the light, but yeah, it just never happens. So going into 2022, I am no longer afraid to be putting fake plants in my house, particularly in places where it doesn't make sense to have a live plant. So if for whatever reason you have that weird hang up too of not wanting to have artificial plants, I don't know why you would need my approval, but it's certainly okay to do. This brings us into number two, which again, I think is something that happens to you once you've been in the plant world for a little bit longer. And for me, that was that I wouldn't buy plants just because they were really, really common plants. I know that sounds super weird, but there's this weird idea, I think, once you've been in the plant community longer and longer that, you know, certain plants are kind of like boring plants or not exciting plants, or, you know, they're just like those stereotypical, like, person who doesn't know about plants buys these plants. And it's a really weird thing because a lot of those plants are so popular and so common for a few great reasons. For one, they usually look beautiful, and for two, they're usually really easy to care for. More recently, I bought this giant Dracaena tree that I am so in love with. I have it in my kitchen area and I really, really think it livens up the space. Same thing with this peace lily by my desk and a few other more common plants that I've recently acquired and I've just really, really been loving. I think the reason that this is so great for me too is that these plants are really inexpensive for a huge plant, which happens to bring me into the third thing that I want to change in 2022, which is buying really, really small plants with the goal of trying to acquire one of every one. I don't know if it's the fact that I'm a 90s kid and like grew up with Pokemon and have this gotta catch them all mentality, but for the longest time I had this weird fascination or just like kind of obsession with acquiring one of every plant in the world. Every time I would go to Lowe's or Home Depot or my local nurseries and I would see a little tiny pot of a plant that I didn't currently own, I had to have it. And in the back of my mind, you know, one day I would hit this magic place where I just owned one of every plant in the world. Now this habit is both silly and probably one that is next to impossible to achieve. There are probably more plants in the world than I would ever even be able to count, let alone be able to own. So unless you plan on opening your own botanical gardens or purchasing your own sector of the tropical rainforest, this probably is not a trend that you'll ever be able to achieve. And if you're like me, hopefully you can start to be more at peace with not feeling like every time you see a plant that's not in your collection that you have to buy it. Now that I'm buying less plants these days, number four is becoming much easier, and that is every time I see a windowsill, not feeling the urge to just crowd that windowsill with plants. Now, this is something I'm still having a little bit of a hard time letting go. You can't see it super well, but I have a window over here and I have a bunch of plants bunched up over it, but I've been really, really bad at this in the past, where if I have a windowsill, I will always put kind of like a bookshelf or something underneath it so I can have as many plants as close to the window as possible. Now, the reason that this is a problem, you might be thinking to yourself, this isn't a problem at all, but the reason that I find that this is a problem for me is while I often, again, say that I like to use plants as a decor piece and the aesthetic of them is really important to me, I found that I was kind of just crowding as many plants onto these under the windowsill areas as possible, to the point where I didn't even enjoy how it looked anymore. They were just overgrown, it was getting crazy. So I think just taking a step back and, you know, even though a plant could go there and might be really happy there, not necessarily feeling like I have to fill every open space in my house with a plant. Number 5 kind of keeps in trend with the theme of buying. And that is not feeling the urge to buy plants that are rehabs or really low sale price plants just because they're a great price. Now, we've all been there, we've all done that. You see that rehab plant and you think to yourself, I know I can bring that to my house and I can make it beautiful again. The thing is, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And that was the boat that I was finding myself in so many times. I was constantly buying these rehab projects, and to be quite frank, I really don't enjoy rehabbing plants. It's very stressful to me. Again, I probably sound like a broken record here, but to me, a big part of owning my plants is having them look nice. And if I just have all these raggedy and dead looking plants around my house, it doesn't make me happy. It makes me want to get rid of them. I don't want to care for them. So again, if you're like me, maybe just not going over to that rehab section when you're at Lowe's and Home Depot to even tempt yourself, because while the deals can be pretty sweet, the road to recovery is typically a long one. Finally, my 6th thing that I want to change going into the new year is stop buying colorful plants. Now, this one's really specific to me and it probably sounds like a weird one, but I constantly find myself every time I go to the plant store being super drawn to the plants in there that are colorful and vibrant. I'm talking about the Oxalis triangularis, I'm talking about the crotons, I'm talking about the aglaonemas. Oh my God, are they beautiful. Particularly when you're at the plant store and everything's kind of that same green color and you just see this pop, your eyes draw to it and you're like, oh my God, you are gorgeous. The thing is, when I bring them into my house, I never can find a place that I like them. My house tends to be pretty neutral in color. There's not a lot of craziness in here. Every time I buy one of these plants that aren't green and it has either purple or pink or, you know, rainbow colored leaves, I can just never find a place that I like it and I'm happy with it, and it ends up just getting put in a corner and it's just not making anybody happy. So that is the final thing that I will be changing in 2022, as much as it pains me at my core, and I'm sure that I will still end up buying some colorful plants in the new year. Now, of course, all these things that I want to change in the new year are just my opinion. There's no right or wrong way to be a plant parent. And in fact, the best way to purchase and care for your plants is the way that makes you the happiest. So drop me a comment down below. Are any of these things that you want to change in the new year too? Is it just me? Am I crazy? Have I gone off the deep end? That's very possible. But anyway, thanks so much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I make a new video every like 3 months, so you have that to look forward to. Anyway, thanks so much, and I hope to see you in the next one.